This is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside. About 35 years ago, a computer systems professional wrote an article which was published in Network World magazine that discussed Murphy's Law. The basic premise was that Murphy's Law was a crutch used by incompetents to justify their failures. The ideas expressed by Murphy should be a warning to all to prepare for the worst you can imagine so that you're not caught by the shortcomings. They are often used to justify the failure of someone to plan. A disaster does not have to be a catastrophe if proper planning is done. I'm providing the text of the article below. It is used by permission of the author. It's referred to as Brandts Laws. It was 1959. I was 16 years old and had just accepted a job with a small electronics firm. I was employed there but a few days when I learned about Murphy's Law. I had previously learned of Charles and Boyle's Law and the law of gravity. I instinctively knew that if they called it a law, Murphy was right. After all, the other laws I had learned were valid. I spent 4 years in electronics and moved on to data processing after college. That's now called IT. From what people said, Murphy seemed to be alive and well in the computer industry too. Something bothered me from time to time. People who had not been prudent used Murphy to avoid facing up to their failures. After all, if something was going to happen no matter what you did, how could you be held responsible for it? Carelessness crept in when Murphy could be blamed. In the early 80s, I was introduced to men like Kenneth Copeland, Phil Crosby, Edward Deming, and Ken Hagen. They all teach that we are responsible for our actions and we control our futures. It took time, but their message finally started to sink in. I realized if I was prudent, I could control many of the things I had considered beyond my control. If I didn't accept unfavorable results as inevitable, they were not. Slowly, I formulated what is nearly the antithesis of Murphy's Law. Although I didn't invent these laws, since I recorded them, I don't blanch at calling them Brandts Laws. Like anyone who's ahead of his peers, I've even been criticized for them. The following are several of the basic ones. Number 1, Murphy's Law is a crutch used by incompetents to excuse their failures. Too often, things happen and we simply write them off as inevitable. All too frequently, these are the results of a lack of prudence, fueled by carelessness caused by Murphy's Laws. Number 2, things go wrong only if you fail to take action to prevent them. I have never seen a well-planned fiasco. Number 3, if you plan to survive the worst case and plan to avoid its happening, it'll not happen and you will survive. By carefully studying the situation and engaging in good contingency planning, your survival is assured. There is no substitute for knowing what one is doing. Lack of academic preparedness and carelessness in ongoing study frequently causes failures. I've seen many so-called professionals who didn't study enough to keep up with even the minimum of available knowledge. Many work harder at their hobbies than their professions. These are not professionals, but overpaid day laborers. A quick fix is neither quick nor a fix. So frequently a Band-Aid is used to treat a severed artery, assuming or hoping it will heal if ignored. This is not to say that there frequently isn't a simple fix, but it should correct the problem, not create future problems. A quick fix targets symptoms, not the cause. Few problems have only one cause. If on the surface the problem has one obvious cause, there are several others, and the most significant is not the obvious. The most obvious cause is frequently the one attacked, often at the expense of ignoring the real cause. The path we recognize as the right one, but think we cannot afford, is usually the one we will use after we have spent more money than the right solution would have cost. The lack of knowing what we were doing makes us afraid to pursue a definitive course of action. Many professionals are scared little boys and girls, afraid they will be found wanting. A failure condition you have planned to handle can't hurt you. You probably can't cover every potential failure, but you can cover the likely ones, and if you do, you'll succeed. Measuring user decibel levels to set priorities results in priorities that ensure failure. The one who yells the loudest is the one who has the most practice at yelling and little practice at listening, thinking, and analyzing. He knows little about problem solving and a lot about organizational politics. Following his lead is a sure trip to catastrophe. Number 10. Cost estimates vary inversely with the estimator's enthusiasm with the project. An estimator's enthusiasm can be determined by assessing how much he will benefit from the project. All project estimates should include a line to show whether the estimator is for or against the project. This is material in evaluating the validity of the estimate. Conclusion. I know there are those who will deride and will cite exceptions to the above, but these statements can stand the test of time. Murphy is alive and well only in those organizations that will tolerate him and the havoc his followers create. Ralph Brandt, 1989, used with permission. This is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside.